Today, we're diving deep into something that's at the heart of, well, everything we think we know, research. But we're not just talking about running experiments or crunching numbers. We're going bigger. We're talking about the philosophy behind it all, that hidden blueprint that shapes how we even start looking for answers in the first place. So let's just start with this giant question. How do we really know that what we know is, true? And I know, that sounds super deep, right? But whether you're a scientist in a lab or a manager trying to figure out team morale, you need a plan. You need a solid way to make sure the answers you find are trustworthy, not just wild guesses. And that plan, that whole framework, that's what we call a research paradigm.
All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to talk about why this is all so important. Then we'll map out this really cool model called the research onion. After that, we'll get into the huge questions about reality itself, see how your answers to those questions dictate the tools you use, and then wrap it all up into a neat, coherent plan.
So before we even dream of creating a survey or designing an experiment, we have to start with ourselves. We have to ask, what are my hidden assumptions about the way the world actually works? Because that core belief system, whether you know you have it or not, is the foundation for everything else you're about to do.
I want you to think about it like this. Every single researcher is basically an explorer, right? You're heading out into the unknown to discover something new. Now, you wouldn't just wander into a jungle without a map and a compass, would you? Of course not. Well, your research paradigm is that map and compass. It's your essential guide that tells you which way to go, what tools to pack, and how to make sense of whatever you find out there.
To help us get our bearings, a lot of researchers use this brilliant model called the research onion. It's basically a visual guide that lets us see all the different layers of the research process, from those deep, abstract beliefs at the core all the way out to the practical, hands-on stuff you do. And here they are, all the layers of our onion. You've got philosophy right there in the middle, at the core, and then you work your way out to the specific techniques and procedures on the outer skin. We're going to peel this thing back from the inside out, because that absolute center, your philosophy, is the part that drives everything else.
Okay, stick with me here, because this next part gets a little heady, but it is, without a doubt, the most crucial piece of the entire puzzle. We have to kick things off by asking some really fundamental questions about what we even mean by words like reality and knowledge.
First up, ontology. Now, that's just a fancy academic word for your belief about reality. The central question it asks is simple. What is real? For example, think about a fantastic meal. Is its deliciousness an objective, measurable fact that exists out there in the world separate from you? Or is it a purely subjective experience, created in your mind and totally different for every single person who tastes it? Your answer to that is your ontology. So once you've kind of decided what you think reality is, the next logical question is, well, how can we possibly learn anything about it? How do we acquire knowledge? Is knowledge something we can get by standing back and measuring it objectively from a distance? Or do you have to get in there, interact with it, and experience it to truly understand what's going on? That's epistemology. Now, your answers to those two huge questions, what is real and how do we know things, are going to funnel you down one of two major paths. These are the two big competing worldviews in research, positivism and interpretivism. Okay, here's the perfect way to see how different these two are. Imagine two researchers are studying employee morale at a company. The positivist researcher believes morale is a single, objective fact that can be measured. So they'll probably send out a huge anonymous survey with a rating scale from 1 to 5 and then analyze the numbers from a distance. The interpretivist, on the other hand, believes morale is a super complex, subjective experience, different for everyone. So they're going to go in and conduct deep, one-on-one interviews, trying to understand all the different competing realities inside that workplace. See the difference? All right, so that's the big picture philosophy stuff. But how does any of that actually tell you what to do? This is the fun part, where we connect the abstract why to the very practical how. Well, your philosophy naturally leads you to a certain approach. A positivist, who believes in general laws, is probably going to use deduction. They'll start with a big theory, like higher pay leads to higher morale, and then they'll go collect data specifically to test if that theory is true. An interpretivist, on the other hand, wants to understand a specific situation from the ground up. So they'll use induction. They'll start by just talking to people, gathering all this rich data, and then look for patterns to build a new theory from what they found. And right here, this slide is the big aha moment. This is where you can see this beautiful, logical chain that connects everything we've been talking about. It's so clear. If your philosophy is that there's one single, measurable reality out there, what we call realism, your path leads straight to positivism and using quantitative methods, numbers.
But if you believe reality is subjective and created through our experiences, that path leads you to interpretivism and qualitative methods, using words, stories, and images.
So let's just lock this in so it's crystal clear. Quantitative research is all about numbers, stats, and large samples. The big goal is to find truths that you can generalize to a wider population. Qualitative research, on the other hand, is about words and images, and its goal is to get a really deep, rich, and nuanced understanding of a very specific situation.
So, let's put it all together. How do we take all these layers of the onion and actually assemble them into a complete, logical, and really practical plan for our research quest?
A really solid research design follows this path. You start with a great question, of course, but look at step 2. That's the absolute linchpin. You have to consciously choose your paradigm. That choice becomes the anchor for everything that comes after. It dictates which methods even make sense, how you're going to think about ethics, and ultimately, how you'll analyze your data and report what you found.
This quote just sums it up perfectly. The whole point isn't to argue that one paradigm is better than another one. The goal is coherence. A truly strong, powerful, and trustworthy research plan is one where every single piece, from your deepest beliefs about reality all the way down to the specific questions you ask in a survey, all fit together logically.
And this is exactly why this all matters so much. Understanding your paradigm isn't just some abstract, academic exercise you have to check off a list. It is the very foundation of your research's integrity. It's the framework that proves your conclusions are logical, that they're rigorous, and that they're ultimately believable. It's your stamp of quality.
So let's end on this thought. The lens you use to look at the world literally shapes the answers you are capable of finding. It actually determines what you even decide to look for in the first place. And that's not just a question for professional researchers, it's a question for all of us. So what's your paradigm, and what kind of truths is it allowing you to see?